What is up, Bears fans? Welcome to the Chicago Bears Huddle podcast, your UK take on all things Chicago Bears. I'm OW James, guys, and we're bringing you news of coaching changes at the Bears and more on the offensive coordinator role, guys. Yes, we brought you obviously news of surprise candidate and young candidate, and now it looks like it could be internal candidate that replaces Declan Doyle, who obviously departed to the Baltimore Ravens. And obviously, you know what that would involve for that OC. But let's start off with news about an appointment, guys, that has been made by the Chicago Bears, and this is a great appointment. This is the appointment of Eric Studesville as the running backs coach, the guy to replace Bieniemy. Yes, Bieniemy departed, of course, to become Kansas City Chiefs offensive coordinator, but now we have a situation where we needed a running backs coach. We have gone and got ourselves a doozy, a real quality one. A guy with a hell of a CV, a guy who's worked with Ben Johnson, a guy who's worked with the Bears in Eric Studesville. Let's have a little look at this guy here. Eric Studesville, obviously worked with the Broncos. Most recently was with the Miami Dolphins as well. So, at the end of the day, we are looking at a good appointment for the Bears. Someone who will come in, hit the ground running, and be able to work with our running back room, which, probably will be DeAndre Swift and Carl Manungai primarily. I mean, who knows what Rojo will bring next year if Travis Homer returns. What the situation is, but certainly he will be assigned to obviously keep that forward development of Carl Manungai going and keep that forward movement of DeAndre Swift going, especially as we know that running the ball has become absolutely key for this Bears offense. In terms of Eric Studesville, he is now obviously running backs coach at the Chicago Bears. He's 58 years old, from Madison, Wisconsin. Went to high school at Verona, attended Wisconsin Whitewater as a college. Was undrafted in the draft and was a defensive back coming out of college. Didn't have much of any of an NFL career to speak of. But in terms of his coaching career, this guy has himself one hell of a CV. He really, really does. A real CV to be proud of as well, with experience, to really come in and help the Bears and help like the likes of obviously young Carl Manungai develop. So in 1991, he was a graduate assistant at Arizona before going to North Carolina to be a video coordinator and assistant secondary coach. At Wingate, he was a defensive coordinator. He was defensive coordinator at Kent State. So he then went off then he came to the Bears in 97, where he was between 97 and 98, where he was offensive quality control coach and offensive assistant. He then became wide receivers coach and assistant special teams coach in 99 to 2000, before heading off to be running backs coach for the New York Giants in 2001, 2003, then to the Bills, 2004, 2007 as running backs coach, run game coordinator and running backs coach between 2008, 2009 with the Bills. Then he went to the Broncos as running backs coach. He was interim head coach in 2010. Back to being running backs coach for 5 years with the Broncos, before departing to go to the Miami Dolphins in 2017, where he became running backs coach and run game coordinator. In 2021, he was co-offensive coordinator and running backs coach, before then becoming the associate head coach and running backs coach for the Dolphins. He's now the running backs coach of the Chicago Bears. Fantastic CV. And what is good is that, back in his history, he has work on defensive side of the ball as well. So has an understanding of the defensive side of the game and the way a defensive coach's mind works, which has got to be a good thing for the Bears. His offensive experience, as you can see, is vast. And working with a number of different franchises around the league, all valuable experience that he will bring to the Bears. He's also a Super Bowl champion, as he was part of the Broncos staff that won the Super Bowl 24-10, when the head coach was Gary Kubiak and Peyton Manning was the quarterback when he game managed the Broncos to a Super Bowl victory in Super Bowl 50. So, look, this is a guy with a fantastic CV, a guy who I honestly believe can have a massive impact. Also worth looking at his history. This is tweeted out by Jacob Infante. New Bears running back coach Eric Studesville has been a running backs coach in the NFL since 2001. So brings 25 years nearly experience. Guys, he's led to 1,000-yard seasons. Tiki Barber, Willis McGee, Marshawn Lynch, what a name. Fred Jackson, Noshawn Moreno, Raheem Mostert, and most recently Devon Achane with the Dolphins. So he has a big history of success at getting guys 2,000-yard seasons. Top level coach, top level man. Really good appointment by the Bears for me as their new running backs coach. Guys, let me know your thoughts on Eric Stoodsville, a stud of a coach coming to the Bears. Right, look, the offensive coordinator search is on. We've been obviously hearing about a possible outsider in Cliff Kingsbury. We've heard also about a possible young guy coming in, like Cameron Senga from the Arizona Cardinals, a guy who was recommended to Ben Johnson by Drew Petzing, one of his best mates. But there is increasing narrative saying that the Bears will look internally for their new offensive coordinator, looking to kind of, maintain some consistency and perhaps even bring in someone who is perhaps more long-term, who's going to stay for more than a couple of seasons or more than a season. I suppose the big worry, if you appoint someone like Senga, for example, from the Arizona Cardinals, or any young guy from anywhere, or position coach, young guy, is that they excel. The Bears offense does well. They learn from Ben Johnson, and within a year to 18 months, they start to be poached by other teams. And we've constantly got a cycle of constantly changing our offensive coordinator. So that is always a big concern when you've got those young lads, or those young kids, or those young boys, or those young men, or whatever you want to call them, as offensive coordinators. Promoting internally is seemingly something the Bears are looking at. And they're perhaps looking at where they can make the least possible damage to their coaching staff in terms of, bringing someone and promoting someone. Now, my personal favourite is Antoine Randall. I think he would be fantastic as OC. Assistant head coach and OC, I think that's a job he could well and truly carry off. And also, it may go a long way to warding off interest in Antoine Randall in the future. I think come next off-season, Randall will be certainly picked up by someone else as OC going forward. And that would be a big loss. He is a top coach with a lot of experience. However, it seems that the Bears are looking elsewhere for a possible offensive coordinator. The latest name from our coaching staff, and perhaps the one they've kind of looked at and gone, well, actually, do you know what? His job could be given to someone else, could either be tagged on to someone else quite easily. Maybe even Antoine Randall, assistant head coach, wide receivers coach, and passing game coordinator. And then Press Taylor becomes offensive coordinator. That could be a possibility for the Bears. Look, Press Taylor, I have got severe mixed feelings on this guy. Things I hear from Jacksonville fans about him as OC are not great. And look, I get that, fans can be bitter, etc., but they're not massively enamoured with this guy as OC. They really aren't. They don't see him as being a guy who is a good offensive coordinator. However, he certainly has done well with the Bears. He's obviously been part of that team that's worked with and developed Caleb Williams, which is, Caleb's taken a big step forward this year. So, you've got to obviously give him some credit for that. For the work that he did with Caleb. He also did good work with Trevor Lawrence in Jacksonville. His coaching career, he was graduate assistant at Tulsa. He was then the offensive quality control guy for the Eagles, assistant quarterbacks coach for the Eagles, quarterbacks coach for the Eagles, quarterbacks coach and passing game coordinator before going to Indy to be senior offensive assistant, before becoming OC at Jacksonville between 2022 and 2024. He's now, of course, the Bears pass game coordinator. Now, obviously the positives of Press Taylor are that when he was at Jacksonville, when Trevor Lawrence was fully fit, when he had a fully fit Trevor Lawrence season, Lawrence was an MVP candidate, did really well that season, made huge strides forward. When he didn't perhaps do as well as OC, he didn't have Trevor Lawrence, which obviously is a big loss. So there's pros and cons with Press Taylor as OC. There may be also this look at, at the end of the day, he doesn't call plays. He's got a minor role. It's all down to Ben Johnson at the end of the day. So, hey, I don't know. Guys, let me know your thoughts when it comes to the next Bears OC. Would you go with Press Taylor, or would you go with JT Barrett, or even Antoine Randall, or would you prefer to look outside the franchise and bring in some fresh blood and some new eyes? Guys, let me know your thoughts in the comments. Anyway, if you enjoyed the content, please like, comment, share, and subscribe to the channel. If you enjoyed, obviously, please smash that. And remember always, bear down.